Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with a review of a dark romance fantasy horror film from 2015 from director Guillermo del Toro, the man who gave us films like Mimic and Pan's Labyrinth, The Devil's Backbone, Hellboy, and many, many others, as well as Kronos. And I'd just like to say, before we get into this film, I'd like to say something. Guillermo del Toro is probably one of my favorite directors working today. He knows how to make a good, interesting movie, and he knows how to do it. He especially knows how to make films with very dark atmosphere and that are very, very kind of fantasy-based. That being said, his movie Crimson Peak came out, and the trailers for it looked good. Problem is, after watching the movie myself, the trailers are false advertisement. The trailers make the film out to look like some kind of just full-on horror film. When I really wouldn't say this is a full-on horror film as much as it is a kind of gothic romance story with a bit of gore and a little bit of ghosts. With some violence and some ghosts here and there, and a little bit of maybe like conspiracy or murder mystery kind of elements, all thrown together to make this very fantastic piece of film. The film follows this young girl as she wants to become a writer, and they think, and basically when she tries to get it published, the publisher tells her, look, nobody's interested in ghost stories. Everybody wants a romance. And she doesn't want to write a romance. She feels like that is cliche. She feels like that's not what she wants to do. And they see the ghosts in her story, and they think, oh, this has ghosts in it, so it's a horror story? When in actuality, she explains it as the ghosts aren't really the main point of the story, much like this film. They are more of a side plot. They are more of a metaphor for something else. And she falls in love with this British businessman, and through a sequence of events which I'm not going to ruin, she ends up living with him in this mansion that people refer to as Crimson Peak. Now, this movie is one that, if you were to not tell me who it was directed by and you were to just pop it in, I could tell that this was a Del Toro film. It is very well shot, it is very well written, the characters are very likable, they change, and they just change throughout the story, and they're not flat and lifeless. The acting in this film is extremely solid, the use of lighting and color and camera work is perfect, the music is great, the film builds a lot of tension. I will admit it's not the most tension-filled horror film, like it's not The Witch. Like, I wouldn't say it's as creepy as like The Witch was, but I'd say it's you know a little bit close, like maybe like if I were to rate like The Witch out of a 5 on how creepy it is, I would at least give it like a 4. For Crimson Peak, I'd at least give it a 3 or a 3.5. It's creepy. It might get under your skin, but it's not the most creepy thing ever. This being said, with Del Toro's use of lighting and color in this film, he's actually referencing, well, some people might like to say he's referencing one of the best Italian horror filmmakers, or just one of the best Italian filmmakers ever. I like to say he's referencing two of the best Italian horror filmmakers, but it can be seen either way. Basically, with this lighting, the lighting that he uses in the film, lots of contrasting colors, especially scenes that are shot at night or scenes that are supposed to be kind of creepy or eerie. He uses a lot of contrasting colors in different rooms to give each room a different kind of atmosphere. Very similar to the lighting in some of Mario Bava's movies, stuff like The Black Sabbath, which Black Sabbath, I'll be honest, is the only Mario Bava movie I've seen, but it is a creepy movie, and the lighting really, really helps set the tone for that movie, and it really helps set the tone for Crimson Peak as well. Another one I at least honestly think that Del Toro might be trying to reference, especially with the violence in the film kind of blending well with the use of color, I think he's referencing Argento as well. Argento didn't use that kind of lighting very often, but when he did, it's in some of his most notable works. Some of his most notable works, stuff like Suspiria, of course, often considered to be his best film, as well as Inferno. The lighting is phenomenal, and if you were to compare, like, a scene by, like, not a scene by scene, but like a frame by frame, like put 3 frames from each film side by side, you could see the very, very clear connection, and with the use of color. The design on the ghosts is really good. It's not just some, like, old woman that's, like, screaming, like how they ruined the fucking the monster and or apparition in the beginning of Martyrs, in the Martyrs remake. They didn't ruin it like that. The ghosts are, it's hard to explain, but it's a very Del Toro style. Again, if you were to kind of put maybe like a ghost from, like the main ghost from The Devil's Backbone next to one of the ghosts from this film, you see they have very similar very similar kind of appearance. They have a very similar kind of appearance and style about them. And if you were to compare some of the other ghosts in this film with some of the monsters and creatures from other Del Toro's other films, like some of the creatures in Hellboy, perhaps, or some of the creatures in Pan's Labyrinth, you'll see the connection there. The film knows how to build tension. It is atmospheric as hell. It is great all over. The pacing is really good. I really don't have any complaints about this movie. I can't even say that this film could have been a little bit shorter, because honestly, even though this film is about 2 hours long, it still feels short. It still feels short. Like, I feel like they could put more into this film and more, like, give this film more depth if they were to give it maybe another half hour. But even for a big budget studio film, you can still see that Del Toro still likes to make creepy movies. He does not let the studio fuck with him that much. At least not since he made Mimic, and then the studio really fucked with him on that one. He just loves to make movies that are creative and don't solely focus on what might be what the audience, at least the mainstream audience that sees his films, wants him to focus on. Like, I heard some people were upset that in Pan's Labyrinth you do not see the underground world. You don't see the underground world at all until the very end of the film, and a lot of people complained and said that was one of the worst aspects of the film. But in actuality, I think that's one of the best aspects of the film. It's more of a Lovecraftian kind of fear of the unknown kind of thing. I'm not saying this film it doesn't leave everything unexplained. I'm just saying Del Toro knows his shit, especially when it comes to dark, not just in atmosphere, but in tone films. That being said, on the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like Nosferatu, and 10 being something like Brain Dead, I would also like to say that if Del Toro were to remake Nosferatu, I would not be disappointed at all. Although I heard that the director of The Witch is going to do a remake of Nosferatu, and beyond excited for that, because goddamn, The Witch was good. But I would honestly place this one at least a 5. It's not overly violent, but when it comes to Del Toro, especially if you've seen his darker R-rated films, you know that he doesn't get violent too often, but when he does get violent, it is usually pretty bloody, pretty graphic at times. Like in Pan's Labyrinth, when the one guy smashes the other guy's face in with a fucking bottle of liquor. That is a brutal scene, and to this day, I still just kind of cringe at it. But overall, I would still give this film a solid recommendation. If you haven't seen this film, I would say go out and see it. If you are a fan of Mario Bava, you must see this film. If you're a fan of Argento, I think you might enjoy it as well. It's a very kind of traditional, like, classic kind of, I don't want to say giallo film, but it feels like if Mario Bava were alive today and he got, and like Universal wanted him to make a movie with a big budget, this is something he would make. That's what I feel like this film is. I would at least give this film a 4.5 out of 5. I absolutely loved this film, and I would highly recommend you guys check it out as soon as possible. I know that the film is in Redbox. You can rent it for $1, and trust me, I rented this thing for $1. I would say it was definitely worth it. I'm kind of sad I didn't buy it first. Either way, that's it for now. I got a convention coming up this week. I'm probably going to do a video on that. Going to Horror Hound weekend. But anyway, guys, you guys have a good evening. You guys have a good day, morning, whatever. I'm going to go take care of all this other shit for this video. Peace.